After my CEO wife crashed into bankruptcy, everyone assumed I'd snatch the cash and bolt. Since I'm just a pretty face obsessed with riches, squandering my CEO wife's fortune every single day on nothing but pure hedonism. However, I'm choosing to stay and fuel her comeback. Back in the day, a mere crumb from her empire was enough to secure total financial freedom. But who could have possibly predicted that my CEO wife was actually faking her downfall? When I isekai'd into the world of this novel, the story was already reaching its grand finale. This breathtaking CEO is the villainess who's already been crushed by the heroine. I still vividly recall the final paragraph about her. The only thing Bai Ningbing had remaining was the husband lounging in that bedroom, along with his luxury watches and designer threads. But Bai Ningbing knew the cold truth, that this man who only craved money and neglected her would soon grab his valuables and desert. At her beck and call, in the end she will be left with nothing. I massaged my temples, pondering my bankrupt CEO wife, and let out a heavy weary sigh. Bai Ningbing has actually treated me quite well since our wedding. Right now, I'd be plagued by too much guilt to take the money and run while she's hitting rock bottom. At the absolute very least, I have to wait until she secures a steady income or rebuilds her career. After taking a moment to clear the mental fog, I stood up and began tackling the trashed house. It took a grueling 3 hours, but I finally got every last bit of clutter stashed away in a corner of my room. Luxuries were now mountainously piled in the space. There were over 100 high-end watches and more than 80 tailored suits. In this moment, I wished I could swap the threads for more timepieces. After all, watches are way easier to flip for quick cash than clothes. I finally rolled out of bed at 2 p.m. My stomach growling in protest, I rifled through the wallet left on the coffee table. I didn't even bother checking the kitchen. We only moved into this place 2 days ago, and neither of us has any culinary skills. The kitchen is undoubtedly a barren wasteland. I have to hunt for some food myself. Fortunately though, the house Bai Ningbing secured isn't massive, but the neighborhood is actually quite upscale. There's a literal feast of restaurants right downstairs. I wandered down and just grabbed a quick bowl of noodles. Recalling the state of the bathroom earlier and the pathetic lack of supplies I noticed, I made a quick detour to the supermarket. I returned lugging a heavy bag of daily essentials. I even picked up a matching set for Bai Ningbing. The specific aesthetics and styles were all curated based on what I recalled her liking. Then I dove back into scrubbing the house. I cracked open the door to Bai Ningbing's sanctuary and discovered that, aside from the bookshelf and a few scattered items on the desk, there was only a bed and the barest necessities. I let out a helpless, weary sigh. It must be brutal for this woman, raised as a pampered high society princess, to endure this stripped-back life. I scanned the space and began systematically tidying up. The clock continued its relentless ticking. By the time the entire place was sparkling clean, it was already the dead of night at 10 p.m. I finished washing up, feeling immensely relieved, and laid out a spread of late-night snacks on the coffee table. Just as I tore open the packaging to take that first satisfying bite, the front door creaked open ominously. I snapped my head up abruptly and locked eyes with a gaze as deep as autumn water. The woman standing at the threshold stared at me expressionlessly. She scanned the revitalized room as she looked away, a flicker of genuine surprise flashing in her eyes. Then her intense gaze drifted back to me. Simultaneously, I took the moment to size her up. She was an impossibly, stunningly beautiful woman. The author truly pulled out all the stops describing her. I felt the sheer weight of Bai Ningbing's gaze, and subconsciously tightened my grip on my chopsticks, feeling a surge of instinctive nerves. After all, I'm nothing more than a fraudulent stand-in. Could a sharp woman like Bai Ningbing really fail to detect that something was off with her husband? The way she looked at me made me feel like my every secret was being stripped bare before her. Did you hire a cleaning service? Do you even have enough cash left for that? Her tone was icy and flat-laced with a hint of scrutiny. I reflexively shook my head in denial. No, I scrubbed the place myself. You actually cleaned it? Yeah, I did it all myself. Bai Ningbing looked completely blindsided, her eyes boring straight into mine. We remained locked in that gaze for a heavy beat. Bai Ningbing was the first to break eye contact. Is the cash sufficient? It's enough. What about your situation? The question slipped out habitually. I instantly regretted opening my mouth. That single inquiry caused Bai Ningbing to snap her gaze back in shock, before she slowly murmured, "It's enough." After that brief exchange, an oppressive silence settled between us. The elusive Bai Ningbing stared at the humble meal spread across the table and suddenly whispered, "I'm sorry." I was caught off guard, looking up to meet her troubled eyes. I quickly waved it off. "No, seriously, you have absolutely nothing to apologize for." Bai Ningbing drifted over and sank into the sofa across from me, meticulously weighing her words. The property disputes have essentially been resolved. Every asset under my name has been liquidated or transferred. While I'm left with nothing, I'm also free of debt. You don't need to fear collectors or legal fallout. I've managed to keep $30,000 in my personal account. Once the dust settles, I'll find a way to generate income. You should still have $60,000 tucked away on your card. The rent for this place is already covered for the next 6 months. If you're looking for a divorce, I'll provide an additional $20,000 for the settlement until you secure your own apartment. You're welcome to stay here. I realized then that Bai Ningbing was being incredibly generous. Their total liquid net worth was a mere $90,000. If we officially split, she was prepared to hand over $80,000 to me, on top of letting me stay in her home. She clearly had no intention of reclaiming my luxury items either. That would leave her with a single room and a pathetic $10,000 to her name. Noticing my prolonged silence, Bai Ningbing added softly, "From whatever salary I earn moving forward, I'll set aside a monthly stipend specifically for you. At least $3,000 a month? Does that work? Because my future is a giant question mark right now. That's the only solid promise I can make. If I ever claw my way back to the top, I will fully compensate you for everything." I quickly shook my head in flat refusal. Seeing my rejection, Bai Ningbing fell into a heavy absolute silence. I realized that my instinctive reaction might have triggered a massive misunderstanding. So I immediately clarified, "Wait, no. I'm not looking for a divorce. And I don't need you to hand over your last cent. Relax, I have more than enough to get by. I've already come to terms with our new reality. From this point on, I'll be far more frugal, and I'll start generating my own income. You don't need to shoulder all this crushing pressure. A regular household actually doesn't burn through much. You're not choosing divorce. But didn't you scream yesterday? Only then did it click. Yesterday, I apparently had a total meltdown, ranting that Bai Ningbing was a useless failure and demanding a divorce. My expression stiffened instantly. Well, I was completely wasted at the time. Those words didn't mean anything. I've had time to think it through properly. I can't just abandon you at rock bottom like this. Since we're legally married, I'm taking full responsibility for our lives from here on out. You don't have to stress over me. I can definitely handle my own weight. Heck, I might even be able to provide for you." The moment those words left my mouth, the look Bai Ningbing gave me became even more perplexed, though she chose not to press the issue. "If a divorce isn't what you want, then we'll drop it for now. Whenever you change your mind, just give me the word." Bai Ningbing stood up to head into the bathroom. I awkwardly ducked my head and focused on my food. I heard Bai Ningbing upon entering the bathroom halt her footsteps for a few telling seconds. She likely noticed how meticulously I'd organized everything, a total 180 from the chaotic mess it was before. Then the rhythmic sound of running water began. By the time I'd finished polishing off my meal, Bai Ningbing had finished her routine and emerged. There was no awkward drama like I'd feared. "Thanks. You should try to get some rest early as well." I ruffled my hair, feeling like I was trapped in a dream. I collected my thoughts once more and went to wash up, before retreating to my room to fire up my laptop. Browsing through the web, I registered a personal shop on a major secondhand marketplace, then finally shut down the laptop to catch some sleep. The following morning, my internal clock habitually woke me up at 6:30 a.m. Utilizing the fresh ingredients I'd hauled in yesterday, I prepped the station and let the porridge simmer, then sprinted downstairs for steamed buns and fried dough sticks. By the time I made it back, Bai Ningbing was just emerging from her bedroom. Startled by the sound of the front door, she glanced up and spotted the breakfast spread in my hands, subconsciously rubbing her eyes in disbelief. She likely figured her eyes were playing tricks on her. Morning, I grabbed some breakfast and simmered some porridge. Go ahead and freshen up. After dropping that, I ducked into the kitchen to monitor the progress of the porridge. I completely ignored Bai Ningbing's stunned, bewildered gaze behind me. Since we both pulled an all-nighter yesterday, I crafted a special red date and bean porridge for a vitality boost. The porridge had reached the perfect consistency, so I ladled out 2 steaming bowls, plated the buns and dough sticks, boiled eggs to perfection, and prepped a savory side dish. When Bai Ningbing finally stepped out of the bathroom, she was greeted by a dining table, hosting a breakfast that was nothing short of a feast. The entire scene felt incredibly heartwarming and domestic. Yet Bai Ningbing didn't feel a shred of comfort. She knew the man she married far too well for this. In nearly 3 years of this marriage, I had never touched a stove or lifted a finger for chores. The only skill I'd ever mastered was extreme retail therapy. Even the deep background checks she ran before the wedding never suggested I possessed these domestic capabilities. Dark suspicion began to take root in Bai Ningbing's heart. Had I been masking my true self this whole time? Back in the glory days, we had a full staff and maids, so I never really had a reason to lift a finger. Now that it's just the 2 of us, and our bank account is bleeding, we can't exactly afford to dine out every meal. My culinary skills aren't world class, but it's definitely edible. If you can stomach it, you're welcome to eat here. So when Grandpa questioned if you could cook, you were bold enough to lie to his face. The moment Bai Ningbing finished speaking, she raised a spoon and took a cautious sip of the porridge. I stiffened for a second, then brushed it off with a casual laugh. My amateur skills are incomparable to the professional chefs. I assumed Grandpa only indulged in the finest delicacies, so I felt far too humiliated to show off. This flimsy excuse was just barely enough to satisfy her. Bai Ningbing nodded. Actually, the flavor is quite impressive. I noticed her movements remained flawlessly elegant even now, and the realization hit me like a truck. Forcing a woman who was raised on refined luxury to survive on basic street food was a cruel reality check. Once the meal ended, Bai Ningbing reached out to help clear the table. I intercepted her immediately. Don't worry about it. I've got the cleanup covered. Washing dishes is my department. Go handle whatever business you have on your plate. The asset liquidation hasn't been finalized yet. I'll likely be home late, so don't wait up for me. Just give me a ring if any trouble pops up. The moment Bai Ningbing stepped out, a wave of relief finally washed over me. I realized that even though she's lost her empire, her regal noble aura is impossible to extinguish. That suffocating invisible pressure still hangs in the air. If I hadn't navigated high-stakes situations in my past life, I honestly might have cracked under her gaze. I've got a mountain of tasks to tackle today as well. Beyond stocking up on essentials for the house, I need to professionally shoot those watches and suits to get them listed on the second-hand market. I estimated that with such a massive collection, liquidating everything could easily net over $1 million. With that kind of cash, whatever comeback she's planning, she'll finally have the seed money to start. Aside from the hustle, I need to analyze the online trends of this world and contemplate returning to my previous grind. In my original reality, I was a professional web novel author. My degree was actually in interior design, but I had zero interest in the corporate rat race after graduation, so I channeled my energy into storytelling. I just take occasional freelance design jobs for extra bread. Life was honestly pretty sweet back then. I finished scrubbing the dishes and ventured out with my meticulous shopping list. I've never been the type to waste time window shopping. I secured everything and headed straight back home. After organizing the place, I began the photo shoot for the gear. I stayed buried in the work until the sun went down. I was already running on fumes, and I'd only managed to finish the catalog for the watches. I warmed up the leftover buns and scarfed down a few bites, then decisively retreated to my bedroom to plunge into web novels. I couldn't endure another second of physical labor today, so mental warfare it is. 2 hours later, I clapped my hands in absolute triumph and downed the cold coffee on the table in a single gulp. I discovered that the web novel meta in this world is lagging significantly behind my original reality. I can resurrect all my previous masterpieces here in an even more polished fashion. This is a literal cheat code from the heavens. Suddenly, the click of the front door opening echoed. I hesitated for a heartbeat, then vaulted off the bed and dashed out in my slippers. I couldn't help but worry. It hit me this morning that the door wasn't deadbolted last night. Bai Ningbing was likely accustomed to villa security and forgot that this middle-class dump requires manual locking. My attempt to hang clothes stiffened as I saw her. You're back? Listen, I realized just this morning that the door wasn't double locked last night. Villas have elite security, but we're on our own now. So we have to manually secure these locks every night. Otherwise, a thief could jimmy it open in seconds. I've got the message. The vibe between us is basically that of total strangers. I had to take the lead to break the ice. Have you eaten? I have. I picked up some more lifestyle essentials today. If you're lacking anything specific, just give me a shout. I'll make a run for it later. There's nothing lacking for the time being. And just like that, the conversation died. What else was I supposed to say? I brainstormed for 3 agonizing seconds and decisively chose to retreat from the awkward scene. In that case, if you're good, I'm heading back to my cave. Shout if you need any assistance. Only after I'd shut my door did Bai Ningbing begin to truly scrutinize the apartment. She took a slow tour through the kitchen and bathroom. The house was filled with new additions today, radiating a much more lived-in energy than before. Does this man actually intend to settle down here? It's as if he's undergone a total soul transplant. I had zero clue what Bai Ningbing was thinking at that moment, as I was hyper-focused on purging the junk from my computer. The original owner grinded in high school to reach a top-tier college, but basically coasted on autopilot through university. His tech skills were an absolute train wreck, and this laptop is lagging like it's from the Stone Age. I need to purge every bit of digital junk inside and uncover what the original owner was actually up to. While scouring the drive, I stumbled upon a hidden photo folder. It was packed with a suspicious amount of subfolders. Most were just narcissistic selfies of the original owner with a handful of generic shots of his parents. But the name of the very last folder was a cryptic string of total gibberish. The moment I clicked it open, holy hell, it was overflowing with photos of a woman. She radiates the aura of a high society socialite, undeniably gorgeous. But honestly, she's just not my vibe, especially the way she smiles. She gives off this forced, pure, and fragile persona. Seeing how dangerously intimate they were, my soul literally shuddered in pure shock. I frantically scrambled to check the timestamps. Thank the heavens, they were all taken before the marriage. That nearly gave me a heart attack. I salvaged a few that weren't too scandalous and nuked the rest of the evidence immediately. By now, the memories finally started flooding back. This female was the former host's obsessive girlfriend back in their college days, a wealthy high-ranking heiress, but since they split up an eternity ago, there's absolutely zero reason to hoard this baggage. It's a miracle Bai Ningbing is so indifferent. Otherwise, this would be a catastrophic time bomb if found. By the time the laptop was fully optimized, it was creeping toward 11 p.m. I let out a massive yawn and finally hit the sack. The next morning, I dragged myself up even earlier than before. I skipped the trip downstairs for takeout. Instead, I decided to whip up some signature fried rice. I even prepared a couple of savory side dishes to match. By the time Bai Ningbing emerged from her room, I already had the feast nearly plated. Perfect timing. You can dig in right after you freshen up. Bai Ningbing stared at the steaming hearty fried rice, visibly stunned. You actually know how to make this too. Correct. I'm not exactly a master chef with a million recipes, but simple home-cooked comfort food is no problem. It's nothing close to a gourmet meal, just decent enough to satisfy the hunger. So don't go being too picky. Bai Ningbing took a cautious spoonful. It's actually good. It's genuinely delicious. As long as it's to your liking. I'll be swinging back home for lunch today. I faltered for a mere fraction of a second, before quickly pivoting, what's on your menu? I'll settle for whatever you whip up, though I am truly craving some rice. Understood. Then I'll prep some sweet and sour glazed pork ribs, savory tomato egg stir fry, and egg drop soup. Sound good? Will that satisfy your appetite? It certainly should. Then head out and focus on your business without a worry. After finishing breakfast, Bai Ningbing grabbed her coat and vanished. I finished scrubbing the remaining dishes and chopsticks before making my way out of the complex. Bai Ningbing slid into a car waiting at the entrance. The driver was her former right-hand Gu Qinghan, a companion handpicked by her grandpa to be raised alongside her. The moment she saw her friend settled in, she extended a paper bag. Ningbing. I grabbed breakfast from Sueji. No thanks. I've already had Gu Xiaoyu's signature fried rice. Gu Qinghan's hand froze midair in shock. What? That Xiaoyu actually knows his way around a kitchen. It's the first time I've heard he could even boil water. He served up some porridge yesterday, which I already considered a straight-up miracle. I assumed he was just talking big about his cooking, but he actually delivered some solid fried rice today. I mentioned I was returning for lunch, and he even promised a full spread of stir-fried dishes. Hearing about my bizarrely improved behavior, Gu Qinghan's brow furrowed with suspicion. He isn't plotting some shady scheme, is he? As I recall, you two were practically strangers living together. He was a complete deadbeat who did absolutely nothing. By the way, didn't he make a scene about wanting a divorce? I've already researched the legal procedures. So why the sudden radio silence on that front? Bai Ningbing glanced up, a faint enigmatic smile drifting across her face. He claimed he's calling off the divorce. He says he's come to terms with our new reality, and that he'll step up and even start bringing in cash. He told me to stop putting so much pressure on myself. Bai Ningbing leaned back against the headrest, her tone completely unreadable. Huh. Could it be he can't bear to watch you suffer? So he's decided to ride or die with you. If that's really the case, then maybe he isn't such a villain after all. Wasting his life away during his college years, doing nothing but draining accounts for 2 years of marriage, screaming for a divorce one day, only to flip the script the very next morning. What's your take on this? They say true character is forged in the fires of adversity. Perhaps his dormant conscience finally caught up to him. With people, you never truly witness their core until their world falls apart. Throughout this nightmare, we've watched so many so-called friends stab us in the back. Maybe Xiaoyu is just that rare breed of man, whose hidden virtues only emerge during a total crisis. Perhaps. Let's move. Regardless, his presence won't change the ultimate outcome. We'll just observe how this play unfolds. On the flip side, I spent the entire morning photographing suits. There's no way I'm ever wearing 80 sets of designer threads. Hoarding 10 for high-end events is more than plenty. The rest are getting liquidated immediately. I can pivot that cash to buy some practical, low-key gear. It took a grueling 2 hours just to catalog half the pile. I glanced at the clock mounted in the living room. It was already hitting 10 a.m. Realizing I needed to make a grocery run for lunch, I frantically stashed the clothes away, threw on a basic jacket, and bolted out the door. After exiting the supermarket, I lugged 2 massive bags back toward the apartment. Just as I crossed the intersection, a voice suddenly shouted my name. I spun around to find an incredibly stunning and flawlessly dressed woman staring at me. Taking a closer look, wasn't she the exact same woman from those hidden photos? The moment our eyes met, she rushed toward me. Xiaoyu, how did you fall so far from grace? I glanced down at my modest outfit, then at the heavy plastic bags hanging from my fingers. Is there some kind of issue? I asked, genuinely baffled. And why are you even here? The woman's expression shifted into a mask of deep longing. Dump that failure Bai Ningbing and come crawling back to me. I can offer you a lifestyle far beyond your wildest dreams. It physically pains me to see you struggling in the dirt like this. Just return to my side, and I promise to provide the lavish life you deserve. If I didn't possess the inherited memories of every dark secret involving this woman, I might have actually been swayed by the raw devotion in her eyes. If she wasn't Liu Ruyan, the manipulative second miss of the Liu group, and the original owner's toxic ex-girlfriend. When this woman was stringing the original owner along, she basked in his unwavering loyalty, while simultaneously mocking his desire to marry into high society. Despite her own massive wealth, she never spent a solitary cent on him. Throughout their entire toxic romance, the original owner footed every bill. She treated him like a loyal lapdog, summoning him at her whim, radiating a suffocating aura of superiority. It wasn't until Bai Ningbing made her move on him that she put on this elaborate star-crossed lover performance to manipulate him into rejecting Bai Ningbing's offer. The original owner was truly desperately sincere toward her back then. He literally starved himself and wore rags, just to hoard every penny to splurge on her. But to this woman, he was just a toy to play with. By some miracle, the original owner was just rational enough to keep from drowning completely in her treacherous love trap. Back in those days, the original owner nearly threw away his chance with Bai Ningbing. Luckily, he accidentally stumbled upon a hidden side of Bai Ningbing's true character. Only then did the original owner finally cut ties with his ex. It was that exact betrayal that convinced him that in this cold world, only cold hard cash is truly reliable, warping him into the shallow man who cared for absolutely nothing but burning through money. You could honestly say that for the tragedy of his life, this woman is responsible for at least half the wreckage. And now this toxic snake is hunting me down. And it's definitely not out of deep affection. I haven't pinpointed her hidden agenda yet, but I know for a fact she's plotting something malicious. In a previous life, Bai Ningbing was a goddess she could only envy from afar. Now that Bai Ningbing has been stripped of her crown, if I'm easily seduced away by her rival, it would be the ultimate killing blow to Bai Ningbing's pride. Perhaps she's even planning a more sinister humiliation. So I shook my head and scoffed, I'm not going anywhere with you. Scram back to whatever hole you crawled out of. But why Bai Ningbing is nothing but a pathetic loser now? She'll drag you down into the gutter with her. What could you possibly see in her now? In marriage, you share the glory and the grind. I am her husband, period. Naturally, I'm obligated to remain at her side, no matter how far she falls or what she becomes. I simply cannot abandon her to the wolves. Don't try to tell me this is just a temporary setback. Even if she were completely broken or paralyzed, I would still be the one to step up and care for her. This transcends the fear of suffering or being broke. As long as she doesn't sign those divorce papers, leaving her behind is absolutely out of the question. Especially now in her darkest hour when she needs me most. What kind of delusional garbage is spewing from your mouth? If my memory serves me correctly, the two of you are basically glorified roommates, right? She just bankrolled your lifestyle so you could play around. You don't harbor a single shred of genuine feeling for her. So why stay and rot in the gutter alongside her? Liu Ruyan glared at me as if I were a total brainless idiot. Who are you to claim she wasn't good to me? Back when she was at the peak of her power, she flooded my accounts with cash every single month. Even if she was too busy to provide her time some, she allowed me to live a life of pure luxury. Maybe that wealth meant nothing to a CEO like her. But let's be real, money doesn't just grow on trees. The fact she gave it was a blessing, and withholding it was well within her rights. Since she chose to provide, I owe her a debt of gratitude. Now that she's hit rock bottom, even while discussing a potential divorce, she still insisted on giving me a roof over my head and offered me the lion's share of her remaining wealth. She's been incredibly noble. You don't call that being good? If that doesn't qualify as being a decent human being, then tell me what does. We never had a foundation of love to begin with. But based on pure integrity alone, her actions are legendary. You trash her character, but are you any better? How am I not good? If you just ditch her and come with me, I promise to spoil you beyond your imagination. Before Liu Ruyan could finish her toxic pitch, I cut her off. Back in college, when I was penniless, you looked down on me with nothing but pure contempt. Convinced I was just some pathetic gold digger chasing your status? In the 2 years of our supposed relationship, you never spent a solitary cent on our dates. Even the gifts you tossed my way were just leftover freebies. Meanwhile, I was grinding through back-breaking part-time jobs just to scrape together enough cash to waste on you. And you repaid that devotion by dumping me like trash. You honestly have the nerve to call that being good. What kind of delusional garbage are you spewing? Just what kind of monster do you take me for? Did Bai Ningbing poison your mind with lies, just to make you turn against me? A shadow of pure malice flickered in Liu Ruyan's eyes. You're severely overestimating your own importance. Someone of Bai Ningbing's stature wouldn't even utter your name to me. She wouldn't spare you a single glance. Only a loser like you would constantly obsess over her, desperately hunting for a shred of validation. It's exactly like the old proverb says, the ugliness within your own soul is the only lens through which you view the world. Just crawl back to whatever hole you came from. I'm trying my best not to say anything more ruthless. Liu Ruyan's gaze turned predatory and dark, as she closed the distance between us step by step. Putting on a mask of fragile innocence, she whimpered, "Zhao Yu, Bai Ningbing must have thoroughly brainwashed you. How could you possibly think so lowly of me? My love for you is the only thing that's real. Bai Ningbing is nothing but a bankrupt failure now, which is why she's leeching off you and refusing to let go. Don't be this incredibly naive. Back off, don't take another step toward me. The bottom line is simple. Abandoning your partner when they've hit rock bottom is the ultimate scumbag move. I refuse to desert her when she's at her most vulnerable. So bury that pathetic idea once and for all. Even if I were to ever walk away, it would only be when she no longer relies on me." Just as Liu Ruyan prepared to launch another retort, a sudden roar of applause and cheers exploded nearby. "Bravo, preach it, young man. Now, that is a man with some real backbone." Exactly, if people kept it 100 like this nowadays, divorce rates wouldn't be hitting the roof. This guy is the definition of a real one. Your wife hit the jackpot when she married you. Only then did I realize that just a few yards away, a crowd of elders had just wrapped up their morning workout and were witnessing the drama. The neighborhood aunties and uncles crowded around. The lead uncle scrutinized Liu Ruyan with disgust and couldn't help but scoff. "Beat it, kid. Little girl, this man is loyal to his wife. Trying to home wreck a marriage like this is straight up trashy. Think about it, if you were the one wearing the ring, some home wrecker kept trying to seduce your husband. How would that make you feel? Don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to yourself." Exactly. You're claiming just because his wife lost her fortune, he should dump her and crawl to you. Then can you personally guarantee that you'll never face a day of financial ruin? This squad of local uncles and aunties was as if a metabolic switch had been flipped. Every single one of them began roasting her. They didn't even grant Liu Ruyan a second to clap back. In a matter of minutes, she was branded a morally bankrupt, toxic snake with zero ethics and no hope for redemption. I quickly cleared a path for the reinforcements, hiding behind the crowd while desperately stifling my laughter. This girl seriously needed a reality check. You guys should definitely give her a piece of your mind. I've got to get home and start lunch, so I'm heading out. Let's catch up again when we have the chance. No worries, kid. You head on back. Leave this toxic mess to us. Standing nearby by Ningbing and Guqing Han, who had witnessed the entire spectacle, remained seated in the car without moving for a long stunned mom. Watching Liu Ruyan being forced to eat her words under the relentless lecture of the elders, Guqing Han finally whispered in total disbelief, "Ningbing, that was definitely Xiao Yu just now, wasn't it? I feel like he's undergone a total personality transplant." "That's the guy? Then Xiao Yu is actually a top-tier guy. Even though we only knew him as a gold digger before, now that you're technically hit rock bottom, he flat out refuses to abandon you. He'd rather suffer in the gutter just to remain at your side. And it's not even fueled by blind love, but by a profound sense of duty." It's exactly what those elders were shouting. His moral compass is just built different. Bai Ningbing also felt that her previous perception of me had been clouded by a massive unfair bias. After concluding my business with Guqing Han, Bai Ningbing headed straight back to the apartment. The moment she pushed open the door, she caught sight of me clutching my laptop, huddled on the rug before the sofa, fingers flying across the keys like a man possessed. The entire house was saturated with the mouth-watering aroma of meat. "Welcome back." Bai Ningbing placed the fresh fruit by the coffee table, stepping over with curiosity to catch a closer look, only to realize I was deep into crafting a story. I figured since my college major is basically a blur now, and while I can still recall bits of what I studied, plus my lifelong obsession with reading novels, I've developed a solid grasp of this industry. I'm planning to dive into writing web novels. You're cool with that, right? I tossed the question out casually, yet my fingers never missed a single beat on the keys. Bai Ningbing felt this path was fitting enough for my situation. Since she harbored zero expectations of me actually earning a dime, she remained predictably indifferent. "Do whatever makes you happy." I knew this high-born young miss undoubtedly looked down on such creative pursuits. She likely doesn't have the slightest clue how they work anyway. I quickly pivoted the conversation. "The ribs are currently simmering. We should be ready to feast in about an hour. Go ahead and handle your business." Bai Ningbing gave a slight nod, freshened up, changed, and retreated into her sanctuary, vanishing from sight. Exactly 1 hour later, I rapped on her door to summon her for dinner. 2 steaming bowls of rice sat ready on the table, surrounded by a vibrant variety of dishes. The pop of red and green was visually stunning. I'd even gone the extra mile with the garnishing. One glance was enough to tell they were prepped with extreme care. It's actually my debut making sweet and sour ribs. I'm not entirely sure if the flavor hits the mark. Take a bite and be the judge. If they're a disaster, I'll whip up a smashed cucumber salad. Ever since my parents' tragic accident back in college, I had mastered the art of living solo. Heavily influenced by my folks, my standards for quality of life weren't exactly extravagant, but they certainly weren't bottom tier either. I kept the house spotless on a strict schedule, and took over the kitchen whenever my schedule allowed. My routine was incredibly disciplined, resulting in some seriously refined life skills. Acting humble now was just me being polite. While I wouldn't claim to be a Michelin star chef, my skills are definitely top shelf home cooking. In my past life, I was the designated head chef for every squad hang, racking up nothing but glowing reviews. Bai Ningbing lifted a piece and finally took a bite. She gave a slight nod. Not bad at all. Actually, it's quite delicious. That's a relief. Dig in then. Life has been a chaotic nightmare these past few days. You haven't had a decent meal or a moment of rest. It's been rough. I poured a glass of chilled lemon tea and slid it across the table toward her. This is lemon tea laced with a bit of honey to give you a much needed vitamin C boost. Try to finish as much as you can. Don't let the tartness bother you. Bai Ningbing's gaze was sharp with scrutiny. She felt as if the man sitting before her was a complete stranger. The intelligence she had gathered previously and their 2 years of marriage didn't align whatsoever. But then again, she had never truly spared him a second thought. She couldn't be certain if her past data was even accurate, so she chose to bury the growing suspicions in her heart. I appreciate the effort. Don't mention it. I'm sheltered here all day, protected from the elements. Meanwhile, you're out there facing the brunt of the storm. That's where the real battle is being fought. Eat up. I offered a faint, reassuring smile. In reality, just by piecing the situation together, I already had a clear picture. Bai Ningbing was once an untouchable goddess on a pedestal, while old man Bai breathed who dared defy the Bai Empire. And Bai Ningbing had been groomed as the ultimate elite since birth. Countless peers were compared to her by their envious parents, and spent their lives living in her shadow. Now that the patriarch Old Man Bai is in the ground, those vultures, the distant relatives of the Bai clan, are only obsessed with how to scavenge the remains of the massive family estate. They are dying to see Bai Ningbing hit rock bottom. None of them would dream of extending a lifeline. They'd much rather trample her while she's bleeding. Nothing satisfies them more than seeing the icon they once feared being ground into the dirt beneath their heels. Honestly, while I was reading this novel before my transmigration, I never quite grasped the logic of why someone as sharp as Bai Ningbing stubbornly refused to let her inner circle bail her out. Obviously, if she had just swallowed her pride and accepted help, she wouldn't have spiraled into this desperate state. Unfortunately, our current dynamic is still pretty strained, so I didn't have the guts to pry into it yet. Figuring that Bai Ningbing was after all a fallen aristocrat, she likely has her own complex reasons for the martyrdom. I couldn't tell what was going through her mind during dinner, but I was personally basking in a wave of post-meal satisfaction. I assume Bai Ningbing didn't exactly despise my cooking either, considering she actually went back for seconds. I'll leave the mess in the kitchen for the time being. Don't you dare touch a single plate. I'll tackle the dishes the moment I wake up from my nap. I tossed the silverware into the sink, prepped some fresh fruit for the coffee table, and retreated to my workstation to continue the grind. Since I was merely resurrecting stories I'd written before, my progress was naturally hitting lightning fast speeds. Plus, my typing technique had been perfected over years of labor. In just that short window of time this morning, I had already hammered out a comprehensive 2,000 word outline. If I can maintain this relentless pace, I'll have 20,000 words ready to submit by tomorrow. Bai Ningbing and I are stuck in a serious rut right now, and our bank account is desperately screaming for help. High-level business schemes are way out of my league, so I'll just focus on out-earning the stress to lighten her burden. Bai Ningbing retreated into her bedroom once more. With the door slammed shut, I had zero clue what she was plotting. At approximately 1:30 p.m., I forced myself to kill the laptop and succumb to a nap. The living room was suddenly engulfed in an eerie silence. Inside her room, Bai Ningbing hesitated for a tense heartbeat, then finally texted Gu Qinghan back, "Just forget it. I'll observe his behavior for a while longer. There's no need for a deep dive investigation yet. Maybe I'm just being paranoid and overthinking things. Let's just play the waiting game for now." In under 60 minutes, my alarm shrieked, ending my rest. I dragged my exhausted body out of bed, feeling a bit lightheaded and dazed. I stumbled blindly toward the bathroom, found the door shut tight, muttered a groggy complaint to myself, and yanked the handle to swing the door wide open. Just as I was about to barge right in, I looked up and locked eyes with the person already inside. "I'm so sorry. I was totally out of it and forgot I wasn't alone." After yelping, my face flushed a deep crimson as I bolted back to my room. I seriously wanted the ground to swallow me whole. That was beyond awkward. It was a total disaster. It took me an eternity to collect my shattered dignity before I dared to open the door and step back out. Of course, Bai Ningbing was just emerging from the bathroom. Our gazes collided once again in a silent, heavy moment. Despite the 4 or 5 meters of distance between us, "It's cool, don't make it weird. This place is tiny. We're going to be crossing paths constantly, so you better get used to it." Right, totally. I'll definitely get used to it. Aren't you heading out at all today? Everything on my itinerary for today is already finished. No, not. Is already finished. I'm camping out here for the afternoon. As soon as Bai Ningbing stopped speaking, it finally clicked for her that I'd been cooped up at home for days. Is there anything specific you need backup with? I felt a surge of nervous energy. What's the vibe is something actually wrong. Even though I was raised in the lap of luxury, I'm not so incompetent that I lack fundamental survival skills. Since we're navigating life in this cramped apartment now, you can be blunt with me if there's an issue. She wasn't just making polite small talk. Got it loud and clear. Staring at Bai Ningbing's intensely serious expression, I actually found the whole thing pretty adorable. Regardless of her corporate triumphs or failures, her visuals are genuinely in a league of their own. As the most stunning heroine ever crafted by the author's pen, she looks breathtaking even when her face is a total blank. I feel like the fact that I can even maintain my composure in the presence of a woman this high tier is honestly a legendary achievement in itself. Bai Ningbing shot me one last meaningful glance, then retreated back into the sanctuary of her room. At that exact moment, a thought suddenly struck me, so I lunged to my feet and dashed to her door. What are you craving for dinner tonight? Whatever works. I'm not a high-maintenance eater. Well, the Ice Queen is a lot easier to please than I anticipated. I sauntered back to my makeshift workstation. I hunkered down by the coffee table grinding out chapters. After finishing one, the listings on the secondhand marketplace suddenly popped into my head. I scrambled to open the app and check the status. Holy hell. I've already moved 12 luxury watches and 2 designer fits. I'm not exactly an expert on the resale value of luxury goods, so when I posted them, I did a quick price comparison online and slapped on a fat 20% discount. A lot of this gear is still mint in the box, but I was paranoid that Bai Ningbing might need a quick cash injection, so I didn't dare to list them at premium prices. I was originally stressed that they were too pricey to move, but I never imagined they'd sell out this lightning fast. After meticulously logging all the shipping addresses, I saved the manifest and then I lunged back into the room to gather the watches and suits. Given the sheer volume of high-end gear I had to ship, I decided to summon a courier for a doorstep pickup. A fast-paced half-hour later, every single item was securely crated, and the courier had finally pulled up. Bai Ningbing must have caught the sounds of the hustle, because she cracked her door and stepped out. What's with all this? I had a mountain of clothes and timepieces from the old days. Since I'm not exactly hitting the social scene lately, they were just cluttering up the house and killing the vibe. So I did some decluttering and listed them for sale. These are the units that sold just today. I need to get them dispatched to the buyers immediately. That's unnecessary. We aren't so desperate yet that you have to pawn your belongings. Honestly, I just couldn't stand the sight of the clutter. Besides, they're already outdated models anyway. I wouldn't caught dead wearing them even if I kept them. It's much smarter to flip them for cold hard cash. That way, when the latest drops actually catch my eye, I'll have the funds ready to pull the trigger. 923. Phrasing it like that should preserve the young Mrs. Pride, right? Phrasing it that way should satisfy the young Mrs. Pride, right? I'm being incredibly thoughtful if I do say so myself. However, I'm not sure which specific word struck a chord, but the hand Bai Ningbing had placed on mine trembled. She finally withdrew her grip, relenting, and whispered, "Fine. We'll just replace them with newer ones down the road." As if I'd ever be insane enough to buy new ones. One of these watches alone costs tens of thousands, which is basically my entire living budget for 6 months. A few new watches and I'd be literally starving in the streets. While I was having this mental breakdown internally, I kept my outward expression perfectly composed. She's a high society heiress through and through. To people like her, reputation and face are everything. I forced a casual smile. I'll be counting on you to gift me a fresh watch later then. Bai Ningbing was momentarily caught off guard by that grin, one that felt familiar yet recently had become something entirely foreign. She averted her gaze, spotting the packed crates on the floor, and leaned down to help the courier load them into the heavy transport bags. Only after the courier had hauled the cargo away, did Bai Ningbing turn to me. "What's the total valuation?" The original stash had over 100 watches, and more than 80 designer outfits. Over 70 of those timepieces were still in their factory seals. I've officially decided to liquidate the entire hoard. Out of the 50 left, I'm putting 40 on the chopping block. Hoarding 10 timepieces is more than enough for my needs. As for the wardrobe, I'll limit myself to 30 sets. The rest of the surplus is going straight to the market. I fully expected Bai Ningbing to veto the idea, but to my utter shock, she simply gave a nod and remained chillingly silent. She grabbed a random apple from the bowl and began peeling it with precision while perched on the sofa. I couldn't read her poker face to save my life, nor did I have any clue if my fire sale had completely shattered her pride. Regardless, survival takes precedence over these overcomplicated worries. Even if she resents it, my hands are tied. I did a market sweep this morning. Property values in this district haven't even hit their peak. I'm blind to Bai Ningbing's ultimate endgame. or if she's actually capable of a legendary comeback. But no matter how the chips fall, securing a permanent roof over our heads is priority one. Selling the luxury gear will comfortably cover the down payment. I'll hand over the surplus cash to Bai Ningbing and grind out the mortgage payments on my own. By doing so, even if the young miss fails to reclaim her throne, we won't end up homeless on the streets. My brain was a chaotic whirlwind of these survival strategies. I sat frozen, staring blankly at the laptop screen, without twitching a single muscle, when a perfectly peeled apple suddenly entered my vision. The crisp, sweet aroma hit me like a truck. The skin had been removed with surgical elegance. I couldn't help but gulp nervously, realizing it was the Ice Queen herself holding the fruit directly in front of my face. This is for me. Bai Ningbing nudged the apple closer with a stoic look. I've treated you unfairly. I was beyond floored by this gesture. The Bai Ningbing depicted in the original novel was a literal fortress who never let men near her and possessed zero tolerance for their existence. Now she's actually peeling fruit for my sake, and with such flawless execution, it's genuinely mind-blowing. I scrambled to take the apple from her hand. Honestly, it's no big deal. After all, every bit of it was purchased with your wealth. You never judged me for being a gold-digging spendthrift before. Honestly, I'm already beyond grateful for everything. To my absolute shock, Bai Ningbing actually chuckled. She usually maintains a frigid, stoic expression. While not exactly Sub-Zero, it definitely screams do not approach. Seeing her break into a smile so unexpectedly, I was left completely and utterly dazed. How is it possible for such a breathtaking woman to exist? Rest assured, I'll make sure your wrist is dripping with even better watches soon. I nodded like a total zombie, feeling a wave of embarrassment once I finally snapped out of it. I have zero doubt you'll stage a legendary comeback. No rush at all. I'll be waiting for that luxury upgrade. Keep grinding, you've totally got this. Bai Ningbing, a faint trace of that smile still lingering, stood up and retreated back into her sanctuary, somewhere hidden from my view. A genuine spark of amusement danced in her eyes. I spent the rest of the afternoon slave grinding my draft, finally smashing through the 10,000-word milestone. We shared a quick quiet dinner, before diving back into our respective worlds. I pulled an absolute all-nighter until midnight, and successfully conquered the 20,000-word mark. The following morning, right after our meal, Bai Ningbing vanished for work while I handled the submission, checking the resale site again. 8 more watches and another designer fit were off the shelves. It felt like watching a literal mountain of cold hard cash, slowly but surely crawling into my digital wallet. My mood was officially through the roof. Just as I finished polishing the final draft and prepped to head out, a sharp knocking echoed at the door. "Who's there?" I called out, rising to open it. A muffled male voice answered from the hallway. "It's me, Lu Jingnian." Who in the hell is Lu Jingnian? I frantically racked my brain while approaching the door. I dug through my memories for an eternity but came up empty. When I finally swung the door open, a solitary man was standing there looking smug. He had that classic arrogant bad boy aesthetic. The second he spotted me, he scanned me from head to toe with an incredibly judgmental glare. The vibe was instantly and intensely uncomfortable. "Well, aren't you going to offer me a seat inside?" Lu Jingnian scoffed as he tried to force his way past me. Still having zero clue who this interloper was, I quickly pivoted to block his path. "Who exactly are you looking for? If you're Gu Xiaoyu, then you're precisely the one I've come to see." The guy leaned in aggressively and squeezed into the room. "Sister Bai isn't around right now, is she?" Since he had already muscled his way inside, it was impossible to physically eject him immediately. I was forced to reluctantly shut the door and slide a cup of tea in front of him. "She's gone. She headed out at the crack of dawn." "Do you actually have business with me?" "You bet I do. Let's be brutally honest here. While you've got a decent face, you lack both family status and actual talent. Sister Bai seriously degraded herself by marrying you. I'm fully aware of that. The only reason was Grandpa Bai's obsession with the debt, that he practically forced her to marry a guy like you. But you've been tied to her for years now, without contributing a single thing to her career. Aside from burning through her cash and playing all day, you are fundamentally worthless. Don't you feel even a shred of shame? If I may ask, what exactly is your history with Bai Ningbing?" Sister Bai and I were inseparable childhood sweethearts. She was always incredibly affectionate toward me. If you hadn't appeared in the picture, we would have been a power couple ages ago. Funny, I've never heard her mention your name. Isn't the reason painfully obvious? Do you honestly think Sister Bai would confide in you about our intimate past? It seemed highly probable that Bai Ningbing would never breathe a word of this to the original owner. For one, they were practically strangers, and she simply wasn't the type to spill secrets. I gave a slow nod. "So what's the real motive behind your visit?" "Sister Bai is desperate for a lifeline right now. How can you have the audacity to keep being a deadweight? My father has promised that the moment we wed, he'll bankroll Sister Bai's legendary comeback. Therefore, you need to sign the divorce papers. If Bai Ningbing truly wants to leave me, she can walk through that door and say it to my face." Why on earth would she need a messenger like you? I'm not the type to pathetically cling to anyone. Or is this entire plan just a delusion of yours? How could Sister Bai possibly bring up such a... She's clearly too mortified to utter the words herself. You're the one who needs to step up and pull the trigger. You've drained her bank accounts for years, yet you haven't contributed a single thing to her life. Even so, she never made your life a living hell. Now that she's drowning in this crisis, even if you're too incompetent to throw a lifeline right, the absolute bare minimum is to stop being her deadweight. If you're the one to demand the divorce, she can just conveniently play along. That's the only way everyone walks away with their dignity. Is this truly what Binding Bing desires? It's what I desire for her. Why is your brain so slow to process this? Sister Bai is too noble to stoop to this level of drama. What she needs is for us to take the initiative for her. You initiate the split immediately, paving the way for me to marry her, and finally unlocking my father's massive resources. If this were actually Binding Bing's decision, I wouldn't hesitate to sign the divorce papers today. But since you've admitted this is your own agenda, then answer me this single question. Before I ever entered the picture, were the two of you actually an item? Does she even love you? Lu Jingnian froze mid-sip, his eyes shifting. That's irrelevant. She's just guarded and doesn't show her emotions. Besides, it's not like she loves you. I can actually save her, while you're nothing but a parasitic burden on her back. I am 100 times more qualified for her than you'll ever be. Nah, you've got it all wrong. Perhaps. I haven't fully decoded Binding Bing's complex character yet, but I'm absolutely certain she would never sell her soul for your father's charity, especially if that help comes with the disgusting price tag of marrying you. You think relying on your family's pity is her salvation, but you fail to realize that if she builds her empire on your father's handouts, how can she ever truly command respect again? She would be eternally shackled to the reputation of a woman who could only rise through connections. I may not know every facet of Binding Bing's heart, but I believe the fierce villainess from the original story is far too proud to ever live as someone's puppet. In fact, if she wasn't so allergic to bowing her head, she wouldn't be navigating this storm of hardship and risk. A woman with her iron will, how could she ever tolerate using her marriage as a mere bargaining chip to negotiate for her own professional resurrection? At the very least, not while she still has her pride. Truthfully, I'm not exactly opposed to divorcing Binding Bing, but I'm damn sure not doing it because some stranger egged me on. Let me make my stance crystal clear. Whatever path Binding Bing chooses is strictly her own business. I possess nothing but absolute respect for her autonomy. Lu Jingnian looked as if his tail had been scorched, and he instantly went into a nuclear meltdown. You're just a parasite trying to drag her into the abyss. How can a man be this pathologically selfish? Sister Bai has already treated you better than you deserve. Now, she finally has a shot at a glorious comeback, and you're going to sabotage it with your own filthy hands. You are genuinely repulsive. Mr. Lu, I've been more than patient with you. Setting aside the fact that you've abruptly barged in here to spew a litany of inappropriate garbage, any casual observer from the outside would assume you're auditioning for the role of a desperate homewrecker who dismantles families. Regarding the sacred bond between Binding Bing and myself, since when was it an outsider's place to meddle, even if your intentions to assist her are noble? You crossed a line coming here to bark orders at me. If your soul is truly burning to help her, then take it up with her directly. I refuse to play God with her life or her decisions. I'm not some pathetic loser who clings to people anyway. Now, concerning this sudden divorce obsession, just use your brain for a single second. If she actually harbored feelings for you, back before Grandpa Bai ever tracked me down, why weren't the two of you already at the altar? If you claim the timing wasn't right, then why weren't you even an official couple? You keep insisting that she isn't the type of woman to go back on her word, yet your current pathetic behavior is a blatant attempt to force her to break it. Furthermore, you haven't factored in her personal perspective at all. What gives you the authority to lecture me? You're just a glorified toy who can't do a single thing, except burn through her hard-earned cash. What right do you have to open your mouth? How dare you stand there and judge me by the legal right that I am still her lawfully wedded husband? As long as I hold that title for even one more day, I reserve every right to shut down anyone attempting to sabotage our marriage. Fine, in the past, I was nothing but a gold-digging brat who didn't contribute a single thing to her life. But she was the one who authorized every single purchase. If she didn't have a problem with it, why the hell are you so triggered? If you're so desperate to put a ring on her finger, then go confess your pathetic feelings to her. The moment you two actually reach an agreement, I'll sign the divorce papers without blinking an eye. But trying to strong-arm me, that's a hard pass. You're absolutely shameless. Lu Jingnian slammed his cup onto the table in a violent rage. I didn't even bother getting angry, calmly spinning my own cup between my fingers. You, a literal homewrecker trying to dismantle a family, don't feel an ounce of shame for your actions. So where do you find the audacity to call me shameless? since you've already decided I'm the villain. I guess we really have nothing left to discuss. The bottom line is you're flat out refusing to divorce her. Think whatever you want. Just consider this a no. Having finally received a definitive rejection and realizing his little mission was a total failure, Lu Jingnian stood up and stormed out in a childish huff. Before vanishing, he turned back to throw one last threat my way. Just you wait, you loser. Sister Bai is going to dump your sorry self sooner or later. The door slammed shut with a resounding bang. I let out a long, heavy sigh of relief. It's one thing for the female lead to be a total babe, but even the villainess is a literal magnet for trouble. If I didn't have a shred of conscience left, I'd honestly love to just walk away from this mess. But that's just a fleeting fantasy. I can't just hijack someone else's body and act like I'm entitled to their life without any responsibility. Even though I wasn't the one who squandered her fortune, I'm technically the man of the house now, aren't I? Shoving that drama to the back of my mind, I opened the portal to log the shipping details and styles, then retreated to my room to dig out the luxury watches I just liquidated. After sorting the haul, I summoned the courier. Today's orders need to be dispatched immediately. Tallying up the items sold so far, it's roughly a cool 2 million in profit. The moment those buyers confirm the delivery, a massive mountain of cash is going to hit my bank account. Once I liquidate a few more of these luxury items, I'll finally be able to snag a cozy apartment. I'll drop a fat down payment and officially secure my status as a homeowner. The sheer thought of it sent a surge of pure motivation through me. I wasn't really in the mood to grind out more chapters, so I fired up the browser instead. To scout out the prime real estate listings in this city, I need to be incredibly surgical about picking my first property. I lost myself in the listings until it was nearly high noon. I didn't even bother closing out the real estate tabs as I scrambled to the kitchen to start lunch. Earlier this morning, the young miss mentioned right before heading out that she'd be returning for a midday meal. This one's on me. I got way too caught up fantasizing about my future empire that I completely lost track of the clock. I decided on fresh wontons for today's lunch menu. The savory filling was prepped at the crack of dawn, and I'd already scored the wrappers yesterday. Consequently, my hands moved with practiced precision, hitting a perfectly fluid culinary rhythm. One masterpiece every few seconds. In the blink of an eye, I'd already folded over 20. While I was in the zone, the young miss let herself in. I was so hyper-focused that I didn't even glance up. Welcome back. Yeah, what are you up to? Bai Ningbing remained hovering by the entrance. She could see my hands flying at high speed, but couldn't quite tell what I was crafting. The question slipped out of her mouth instinctively. Folding wontons, we're having wonton soup for lunch. And I'm whipping up some crispy pan-fried flatbread too. That way, there's zero chance of us leaving the table hungry. I responded with total casual confidence, crafting flatbread and handmade wontons from scratch. This level of skill was already light years beyond what a typical home cook could ever hope to pull off. That familiar seed of doubt sprouted in Bai Ningbing's mind again. But a moment later, watching me sit there so peacefully, expertly shaping each individual wonton, she decided it wasn't worth overanalyzing. Actually, I haven't tasted a home-cooked meal like this in forever. The confession escaped Bai Ningbing's lips before she could stop it. Realizing how vulnerable that sounded, she clamped her mouth shut and ducked into the bathroom as if to bury the sentiment, and began scrubbing her hands. I was completely oblivious to her sudden awkwardness. Personally, I'm a total sucker for wontons too. Reflecting on the chaos of this recent stretch, Bai Ningbing was buried under a mountain of corporate drama, so how could she possibly find the headspace to care about food? Besides, wontons are typically just a quick snack, so it's only natural she hasn't touched them in years. In that case, do you want a larger serving? If you're down, I'll drop more into the pot in a sec. I'll wrap the leftovers and chuck them in the freezer. If we're ever feeling lazy, we can just boil them and feast. Go ahead and boil a few more then. Bai Ningbing voiced this after drying her hands. She hadn't indulged in a comfort snack like this in forever. The last time was probably 3 or 4 years ago. If I hadn't unexpectedly mentioned it, it wouldn't even have dawned on her just how long it had been since she truly let her guard down. Got it, I'll toss in an extra batch, I replied, without my hands missing a single beat. From my perspective, existence is fueled by hope and these tiny sparks of joy. Life is exactly what you have the guts to make of it. Being granted a second chance is a massive stroke of luck. Every single blessing in this life deserves to be cherished. Just being able to sit here crafting these wontons and then savoring them is pure unadulterated bliss. Roughly an hour later, 2 bowls of piping hot steaming wontons sat on the table. I summoned Bai Ningbing and took my place. I gave a slight nod, gesturing for her to take a seat. My face was lit up with an expectant, hopeful grin. Hurry up and dig in. I'm pretty confident my wonton game is on point. I wasn't entirely sure about your appetite. And since wontons are notoriously light, I decided to whip up some savory wraps as well. Actually, do you even do wraps? Hearing my question, she found the situation slightly amusing, but kept her poker face intact. Of course I do. I'm a human being, not an alien. After dropping that line, She sat down, sampled one, and delivered the verdict. The flavor profile is actually quite impressive. Told you my wontons never miss. It's mostly because I'm obsessed with eating them. Since you approve, don't hold back, eat your fill. The two of us made progress at vastly different speeds. Even though Bai Ningbing's portion was only half of mine, she managed to polish off her bowl at the exact same time as me. As I stood up to tackle the pile of dishes, she unexpectedly broke the silence. I'll order a dishwasher later. It's only a few bowls. Honestly, it won't take any effort at all. There's no need to blow money on that. They aren't even that expensive. It's decided, Bai Ningbing added with a shrug. I immediately pulled a face of pure conflict. What is going on with the young miss? She clearly hasn't adjusted to our new reality yet. She hasn't fully grasped the fact that as of right now, we aren't the high-rolling elite we used to be. I was agonizing over whether to give her a reality check, but catching a glimpse of her slightly furrowed brow, the blunt reminder I was prepared to drop, did a total 180 as it left my lips, and fine. I'll take care of buying one later then. Don't you worry your head about it. I'm incredibly picky about appliances, so it might take me forever to find the right model. I let out a weary internal sigh the second I finished. Being this gorgeous is honestly a literal cheat code. I found that I actually couldn't stomach saying anything that might bruise her fragile pride. Since I claim to be so fastidious, it would be perfectly logical not to find a suitable dishwasher for a very long time. Bai Ningbing caught my conflicted micro-expression, and it suddenly dawned on her exactly what her husband was stressing about. For a heartbeat, she was hit by a bizarre sensation. Early in life, under her grandfather's thumb, she had tasted the bitter struggle of poverty. But after her grueling training ended at 15, she had never known the feeling of being broke again. This time it wasn't that she was actually penniless, but that her legal husband thought she was destitute. Yet even with that assumption, he refused to throw her poverty in her face. It was a surreal, magical feeling. She couldn't quite put her emotions into words. I've got business to attend to, so I'm heading back to my room. With that, Bai Ningbing spun around and retreated, leaving me to finish the chores in solitude. I hummed a tune while scrubbing. Life was actually vibing. A roof over my head, a full stomach, and my luxury fire sale was moving units like crazy. I'll have a sanctuary of my own before I know it. Life is undeniably on an upward trajectory from here. The young miss is stacked with talent, no question about it. Staging a legendary comeback is merely a matter of time. Maybe she'll even bless me with a fat stack of cash then. Even if she never reclaims her throne, it's irrelevant. I'm more than capable of carrying the weight of this family myself. For the time being, having her as a pseudo-companion means I won't have to face life's curveballs in total isolation. I refuse to let my potential rot for the rest of my days. When the dust finally settles on a normal life, if she demands a divorce, I'll grant her freedom instantly. Then I'll patiently search for my true soulmate. Living our best individual lives is the ultimate victory. Post dishes, I hammered out a few more chapters before my siesta. Suddenly, Bai Ningbing swung her door open and stepped out. Did that Lu Jingnian character show up to give you a rough time today? Not exactly a rough time. He basically begged me to pull the trigger on our divorce. I shot him down. I figured you two had zero chemistry. But if you actually harbor feelings for him, we can sign those papers the second you say the word. He also bragged that his old man could bail you out the moment the two of you tie the knot. There is absolutely nothing going on between us. And I would never dream of divorcing you for a guy like him. You handled that perfectly. Regarding the rest of our mess, we'll discuss it later. I don't require anyone's charity at the moment. These complicated hurdles aren't something his father has the power to fix anyway. Understood. That's exactly what I suspected. I stood up ready to retreat to my room for some shut-eye. Bai Ningbing suddenly interjected, drilling into me with a piercing gaze. One more thing. Since when did you develop this midday nap habit? My muscles locked up as I scrambled for a convincing excuse. Well, it hit me out of nowhere that my previous lifestyle was a total train wreck, and my physical condition was absolute trash. So I'm forcing myself to undergo a total reboot. Honestly, you should try a noontime power nap too. You'll feel way more revitalized for the afternoon, and your productivity will absolutely skyrocket. Fine, go ahead and get some rest. Bai Ningbing stood up and vanished back into her room, leaving me standing there, paralyzed with anxiety. I obsessed over whether I'd accidentally slipped up. After such a soul-crushing disaster like a family empire collapsing, who wouldn't undergo a complete personality overhaul? After retreating to her room, Bai Ningbing slumped back into her desk chair with a stoic mask, completely lost in her own head. After a long silence, it was obvious she was still wrestling with her decision, yet she grabbed her phone and dialed a number. Acquire a top-tier dishwasher in the next couple of days, and have it dispatched to my current address. Certain things definitely require more scrutiny. Until then, I'll just let the status quo play out for a bit. The moment the call disconnected, Bai Ningbing tossed her phone onto the desk. Her gaze drifted unintentionally toward the nearby bed, and my earlier advice began to resonate in her mind. Is a midday nap actually that beneficial? Before she even consciously realized it, she had instinctively collapsed onto the mattress. As she felt the tension drain from her body, it honestly felt surprisingly refreshing. She's been drowning in corporate warfare these past few years. She honestly hasn't experienced a truly peaceful night's rest in forever. In the blink of an eye, it was already 2:30 p.m. I sauntered out of my bedroom, letting out a massive bone-cracking stretch. I headed straight for the bathroom to splash some water on my face. Just as I was stepping back out into the hall, I caught Bai Ningbing emerging from her quarters, her eyes still clouded with a hazy, sleepy mist. Good grief. Does the young miss always look this ethereal when she wakes up? She's a bit too stunning for her own good, isn't she? How could a goddess like this ever be cast as a villain? The author must have poured an insane amount of effort into designing such a high-tier antagonist. Nevertheless, scripting such a brutal and tragic downfall for her is such a damn waste. While lost in these thoughts, I was totally oblivious to my own expression, which accidentally betrayed a flicker of genuine pity. Bai Ningbing caught it instantly. That look, saturated with a hint of sorrow, seemed to pierce her pride for a split second. She immediately averted her gaze. Do you need the restroom? No, not at all. I'm already finished in there. Rise and shine, I'm out of your way. I quickly scrambled aside to let Bai Ningbing pass. Then Director Song hunkered down in front of the monitor and prepared to grind out another massive chapter dump. The second I logged into QQ, I noticed a pending friend request flashing at me. The attached note identified them as an editor from a major literary site. Bai Ningbing caught the sound of my excitement, emerging from the bathroom to ask, "What's the hype about?" My manuscript actually cleared the initial review. Once it survives the second and final rounds, it's going to start generating some serious revenue. Is that so? Then you have my congratulations. No congrats to both of us? I immediately tuned out Bai Ningbing's presence, diving headfirst back into the draft to maintain my momentum. Seeing me hunched over the keyboard in a trance, Bai Ningbing quietly retreated back into the washroom. Later that afternoon, I summoned a courier for the next batch. The agent who arrived turned out to be a young woman. Mr. Gu, are you running some kind of high-stakes e-commerce? These timepieces all look incredibly sophisticated. If it's not too much trouble, could you hook me up with a solid discount? I've been searching for the perfect gift for my boyfriend. Taken aback, I frantically shook my head. Apologies for that. This isn't actually a commercial shop. I'm merely handling the logistics for a close friend. Besides, the price tags on these units are far from budget. I believe every single one is valued at over 10,000. That's a bit too much capital for me to negotiate on. However, if you're serious, I could inquire on your behalf. Weight over 10,000 each. Good grief then, these are bona fide luxury pieces. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. But that seems to be the case. Regardless, they're definitely high tier. The moment I finished, the nearby elevator pinged and the doors slid open. Bai Ningbing stepped out into the hallway. She had clearly eavesdropped on the entire conversation. What's the situation here? Oh, it's nothing. The courier agent was interested in one of the watches, but since they aren't technically my property, I told her I'd check with my friend first, to see if there was any room for a deal. No, forget I mentioned it. If we're talking luxury brands, then I'm definitely out. I'm just an ordinary girl. I don't think I could even pull off wearing something so elite. Is this the full shipment for today? If we're all set, I'll get these crated and be on my way. They'll be processed and dispatched shortly. Yes, that accounts for all of them. Terribly sorry to have inconvenienced you. The courier lady gathered the parcels and vanished into the elevator. It only then dawned on me that I was completely obstructing the entrance. I scrambled to make way and let Bai Ningbing inside. What brings you back at such an early hour? The workload was surprisingly light this afternoon. Why did you lie and claim the timepieces belong to someone else? It's just not smart to advertise that they're mine. The security in this complex is a bit of a question mark. If people think we're flush with cash, we're basically targets. Furthermore, that courier has become a regular fixture here. We've officially become familiar faces. I'll be relying on her to ship out a lot more inventory soon. If I admit they're mine, but refuse her a massive discount, she might start harboring some petty resentment. What if she decides to sabotage my shipments out of spite? Even if I could eventually file an insurance claim, it's a massive headache I'd rather avoid. At the end of the day, you can't trust anyone at face value. Besides, we're not exactly best friends, so taking that risk is just plain foolish. I see. That's actually quite a strategic way to think. By the way, there's a high-profile cocktail gala in a few days. The two of us are expected to attend as a couple. Make sure you're prepped well in advance. A gala? I'm practically a stranger to those social circles. Won't I just be a massive liability to you if I show up now? It's irrelevant. At this stage, there isn't anyone left who can truly intimidate me, even if drama does break out. A little extra chaos won't make a difference. Bai Ningbing nonchalantly reached for a cup on the table and poured herself some water with an air of cold indifference. Hearing her say that only made my anxiety spike. Fine, I'll make sure I'm ready for it. Over the following 2 days, Bai Ningbing kept her grueling schedule. Still, she made it a point to be home for breakfast and dinner. I fell into a routine of prepping 2 servings for every single meal. I stayed cooped up grinding out chapters and liquidating assets. I also spent my downtime researching high society etiquette. Today, the moment Bai Ningbing stepped through the door, she saw I wasn't slumped on the sofa in my usual state of laziness. Instead, the second the lock clicked, I fixed her with an intense, almost desperate gaze. My expression was honestly bordering on the bizarre. She eyed the pile of garments on the couch and asked, "What's this? Why on earth did you purchase so many outfits?" "Young miss, you've got to save me. It's been an eternity since I've stepped into a party. I'm totally clueless. What aesthetic is actually trending these days? These are the most sophisticated suits I could find. Take a look and tell me which one makes the cut. Didn't you used to pride yourself on your own style?" Back then, my world flipped so violently and suddenly that I was honestly a bit too thin-skinned. I obsessively insisted on choosing my own threads, just to salvage the pathetic remains of my pride. But I finally come to terms with the fact that a person's worth isn't in their ego. Being defensive while getting disrespected is pointless. Better to just drop the act and admit I'm clueless. Looks like you finally gained some real perspective. Then quit stalling and tell me which suit works best. I'm completely stuck in indecision. Bai Ningbing gave the selection a cold scan and nonchalantly signaled toward a sleek black suit. That one. It's understated and sharp so it fits the vibe. Perfect. Then this is the winner. With the formal wear locked in, I cleared away the rest of the wardrobe clutter. When the hour of the banquet finally arrived, Bai Ningbing personally took the wheel to drive us. I made a conscious choice to take the back seat. Bai Ningbing tracked my movement through the rearview mirror. "Are you freezing in such thin fabric?" "I'm good, the long sleeves offer enough cover. The chill hasn't really set in quite yet." "Why do I get the feeling that your current vibe toward me is a little off?" "No way, we don't have any bad blood. And you've been incredibly supportive of me. I'm beyond grateful for everything. It's just that we barely even spoke in the past. Now we're basically breathing the same air 24/7. So I'm still just adjusting to the new normal. I'll get into the groove of it eventually." Bai Ningbing kept her eyes on the mirror as I awkwardly scratched the back of my neck. My forced diplomatic smile instantly evaporated, leaving me staring blankly into space. Suddenly, the urge to keep up the small talk died. A heavy silence settled between us for the rest of the ride. Shortly after we pulled up to the city's most elite hotel, the moment Bai Ningbing and I stepped toward the doors, someone calculatedly stepped in to obstruct our path. Standing before us was a portly middle-aged man with hair that looked uncomfortably slick with grease. His arm was entwined with a woman dripping in luxury. His face was practically radiating pure malice. That prime real estate over in the East District, the Guangyuan group has been stalking it like a hawk lately. Shouldn't you go secure your interests, President Lee? President Lee froze in his tracks for a heartbeat, his smug expression contorting, before forcing out a pained smile. President Bai sharp as a razor as always. "It's been quite some time. A pleasure to see you." Bai Ningbing completely iced him out, leading me directly past him and deeper into the venue. I trailed behind Bai Ningbing through the crowded gala and instantly recognized several pathetic fair-weather friends from my predecessor's memories. They were all trophy husbands clinging to various socialites, or their spoiled, pampered sons, bottom-tier nobodies that no one took seriously. Some caught my eye and prepared to approach with their drinks. But the moment they clocked Bai Ningbing by my side, they all obediently retreated like whipped dogs. A few were even winking at me. Not going to join them? Why on earth would I go over there? Looking for trouble, no thanks. We were never tight anyway. Just superficial networking. Now that the tables have turned, it's much safer to stay total strangers. The two of us hadn't even covered much ground before 2 more arrogant young men, accompanied by their arm candy, approached us. The one leading the charge was slightly older, pushing around 30 years old, with a plastic smile glued to his face. Well, if it isn't the elusive Miss Bai herself. And this gentleman standing beside you is... My apologies, look at my failing memory. I must be getting senile in my old age. This is Miss Bai's little house husband, isn't it? It's a rare sight to see you two parading together. What's the matter? Is life hitting a rough patch? Are you guys running low on liquid cash lately? I always heard rumors that your marriage was a total disaster. But it looks like the gossip mill was just spinning nonsense. It certainly has been a while. I was under the impression Mr. Tang was too bedridden to move, but it seems you've made a miraculous recovery. Truly intelligent people, once they trip over an obstacle, have the sense to avoid it the second time around. But the more dim-witted individuals won't be satisfied until they perish by tripping in that same hole. Don't you agree with that logic, Mr. Tang? Valid point. It's just that some pits used to be treacherous, but now they've transformed into rare treasures ripe for the taking. And when fortune lies in the dirt, naturally everyone claws to claim it. I'm positive a woman as sharp as Ms. Bai catches my drift. On another note, rumor has it your business empire has been crumbling lately. Since we share such a long-standing history, I'll offer you a free bit of professional guidance. Sometimes, true capital isn't found in a bank account. It's found in the power of the people you know. I instinctively tightened my grip knuckles, turning white, as I stepped forward to shield by Ningbing. In that tense moment, a girl's voice pierced the air. Second sister, what on earth are you doing here? The arrogant masks of the two men vanished in a heartbeat. Kiki recoiled a step, eyes darting. Just passing through.